It's back to cup play in the Big Apple. Two USL Championship sides jockeying for group stage position. Brooklyn FC hosting the defending tournament trophy winners Hartford Athletic from NYC. We welcome you to Maimonides Park on historic Coney Island. Game 2 of the Prinx Tires USL Cup for both Brooklyn and Hartford. With Eric Dobransky, I'm Ken Levicka, and a special good evening on this Saturday night from New York City. Eric, you have this side in Brooklyn FC that is trying to find itself as an expansion side, but off to a great start in USL Cup play. Victorious first time out. Taimu Okiyoshi, he has been so dependable.
Every match, you can count on him to show up. Offensively, he does a tremendous job of attracting defenders, shifting the shape of opponents, and generating space for others around him. And defensively, his anticipation is top-notch. He recognizes the right moments to step up higher and reinforce pressing actions.
Hartford, they're the defending champions in this tournament, trying to find their way in the attack. Samuel Carriaga looking to help that.
Hey, why not highlight dueling midfielders, an area of the field where initial exchanges have a direct influence on how the match ultimately plays out. Is a player who possesses all the technical ability to unlock teams defensively. He operates with subtlety that often lead to loud moments in matches and rarely forces himself to change the desired tempo for how he wants to dictate the rhythm and the flow of a game.
Prinx Tires USL Cup continues on this Saturday night. Brooklyn FC, Hartford Athletic on the way. It's the USL Cup on ESPN+.
Hearts. No two beat the same. So we built a team of the best heart surgeons, pioneers of the most modern techniques, who always find the one approach that's best for you. But while each surgery is unique, the outcome is the same: the highest success rates. NYU Langone Health.
Prinx Tires proud to be the presenting sponsor of the Prinx Tires USL Cup. Built for practical performance and the long haul, Prinx delivers reliability for everyday drivers like you. Visit PrinxTireUSA.com to learn more. With Eric Dobransky, I'm Ken Levicka as we close in on kickoff of this group stage, match number 2 for both sides in the USL Cup. Brooklyn FC victorious over New York Cosmos in their debut into the tournament. Hartford Athletic, they had a penalty loss and 1 point in the standings. Let's look at the starting 11 first for Marlon LeBlanc and Brooklyn.
Yeah, Brooklyn set up in a 4-2-3-1 and a group that wants to play on the front foot. And a lot of attention may go towards Abdoulaye Kanté, whose impact continues to grow within this side. They'll look to create isolated moments for him in the attacking areas. And then out wide, Alves and McLaughlin will play a massive role as outlets to play off of and generate attack along with their value defensively and recovering in some situations.
Hartford Athletic trying to get a 3-point outing, and here is Brendan Burke starting 11.
Yeah, naturally the attacking focus begins with Augie Williams, one of the most prolific goal scorers in the USL Championship, and a player who is sharp and decisive in his movements. Defensively, this group is led by Jordan Scarlett and Anthony Siaha, two players who will need to provide organizations and stability in order to kind of win that battle of territory here tonight, where Brooklyn, you play in tight confines like this, you're going to, the pressure increases, the space decreases, so you're going to see a lot of second and third actions that begin to influence how this match plays out.
One of the most unique, if not the most unique backdrop in all of USL football, and certainly the championship here at Maimonides Park, Coney Island, those legendary roller coasters in the background. And Brooklyn FC in USL Championship play, it's been a feeling out process, but they are on the front foot here in the Prinx Tires USL Cup with their 3-0 whitewashing of New York Cosmos to start this tournament. Hartford Athletic, meanwhile, they only pick up a point with the penalty loss to Rhode Island, their first go-around in 2026. As we await kickoff, the referee, Luis Arroyo. This is the second meeting between these two sides. And there is the first whistle of the evening from Luis Arroyo. And match number 2 of the Prinx Tires USL Cup for both Brooklyn FC and Hartford Athletic is underway. The tight confines of Maimonides Park. This is one of the smallest pitches in all of professional soccer in this country. It is unique. It is sometimes difficult to traverse. And as you can see, it's almost like an Indy 500 since we're in the month of May of soccer, because it's just back and forth and high flying because, well, you put a right or left foot into it, it can go a long way.
Yeah, I like that reference. And for a match that, you know, in the game of football, you can't switch off anyways, but when you play in tight confines like this, quick turnovers, transition moments, counterattacking areas and spaces become so valuable, and they're just emphasized even more in a space like this. So can you put yourself in a position where you could be the aggressor in a lot of those moments, and anticipation is so heightened, and that's where midfield play, I mean, we highlighted Okiyoshi and Carriaga. Those are two players that typically, when they're on the ball, you're influencing how defenders are moving, but now it's just playing quick, but also putting yourself in a position where you can pick up those secondary actions and some of that direct play.
Brooklyn FC in black, Hartford Athletic in white and gray here tonight. And this is a high, long ball. The fight is on for it. There's a fight in the box, and it's eventually won by Latinovic. A little bit of a shaky moment there, some indecisiveness on the back line. Trying to work hard for that ball was Augie Williams, and you mentioned him before kickoff, Eric, and Augie Williams absolutely prolific, and that goes without saying. He is the active goals leader in the USL Championship, has 85 to his career and all time, only behind Dane Kelly for the USL Championship goal scoring record.
And what's so fascinating and you see it in the list of prolific goal scorers in the USL Championship, but specifically to Augie Williams, is when you step into different teams and different organizations, and your rate of success and your ability to score goals in different systems, and that doesn't change. I mean, that just speaks volumes to who you are as a professional and how you read the game and influence the match.
This is whipped back in and handled by Hartford. They are stingy, Hartford Athletic. In fact, away from Connecticut this season, they have not conceded in an opening half and have only conceded once away from home all competitions in 2026. Pretty prolific. Can they keep it up tonight against Brooklyn? And we have our first whistle and stoppage of plays. Luis Arroyo gets involved for the first time, and it appears as if Juan Carlos Obregon is the guilty party.
And you mentioned it just a moment ago, for Brendan Burke's side, it's about turning that defensive posture into offensive output, because right now it's a team that in league play, 9 goals for, fourth fewest. Obviously, Brooklyn FC are right there in the thick of it as well, with only the 8 goals scored. As we see a call against Obregon Jr. And then, but on the defensive side, only 8 goals against, which is towards the top of the USL Championship. 4 clean sheets, which again puts them towards the top of the USL Championship. So they are doing it on the defensive side, but now can you turn that defensive structure into offensive freedom? And that's where an Augie Williams will thrive. I mean, Carriaga, I mean, Matt Real is so impactful in those wide spaces. His delivery, his quality of ball entry is something that can flip a match in a moment.
Anthony Siaha, the outstanding goalkeeper for Hartford, he actually came up into the midfield to deliver and off the mark as it rolls across the end line. But that right there is case in point what we were discussing with the close quarters of this pitch here on Coney Island. It is certainly, anytime you come here to watch a soccer match, you may see something interesting, whether it's from Brooklyn or the opponent, because you can take some goes at it that you wouldn't be able to at other venues.
And it's intriguing because their home matches have been either defined by 1-goal differentials or some of these louder differentials. Well, I mean, you bring Charleston into this venue, and Brooklyn, it was a 0-0 at half, and scored 3 goals. Take that game 3-0, but then you look at their Lou City match, conceded late. That was a 1-0 defeat. Loudoun just recently 1-0. I mean, you go into Sacramento Republic, and obviously a match that Marlon LeBlanc had brought up to us, that if they can finish that game out and manage it differently, you pick up a massive 3 points against a Western Conference opponent that is towards the top of the league.
This is sent high into the air and back into the midfield, but Brooklyn starting to find its way a bit in possession. This is worked back to the midfield and sprayed to the outside. Good movement here, McLaughlin. Whipped off to the far side, McNamara, the veteran. That's blocked away, but it stays in play. Conte, back to McNamara. McNamara in a battle with Obalola, and another throw-in for Brooklyn FC. The consistency of Brooklyn, and while the results haven't necessarily been what Brooklyn's looking for, and look at that turn and attempt, and Siaha is equal to the task, but that developed out of nothing. And Obregon put a lot of pace into that right foot. There's the first save of the match.
And Siaha, a player that stepped up and made some massive saves in this matchup in the regular season, that 2-1 win for Hartford Athletic. But a game that was heavily tilted in the shots and shots on target category for Brooklyn FC, and Anthony Siaha coming up with every save in his toolbox.
Stojanovic goes down for Brooklyn. Makangila came over his back. But again, Eric, you were talking about is we're going to take a look here at Obregon. And that was going to be tucked inside that near post. Siaha closed it off well. But what sparked this run of consistency was a 3-0 drubbing at Lexington, March the 25th. And again, since then, a famous 3-0 victory over Charleston Battery, the draw against Sacramento, and then 3 one-goal losses where Brooklyn had all sorts of opportunities, and sandwiched in there that 3-0 defeat of New York Cosmos to start this Prinx Tires USL Cup. And we are going to have a free kick as Tommy McNamara went to ground where he all took him out. And another good opportunity brewing here for the home side.
Yeah, this is a high-energy start for Brooklyn FC, and exactly what Marlon LeBlanc and his side would have been looking for. And that's the fun part about obviously stepping out of the regular season in a matchup like this, because Hartford Athletic, you'd mentioned the draw against Rhode Island, dropping the overall points to in penalties in the 3-0. Who has to come out and play with that kind of tempo? Who has to go be the aggressor? And obviously Brooklyn FC have wanted to stack performances after that 3-0 win over New York Cosmos.
Obregon. Not very dangerous, and then a foul. And this will head back the other way. Brooklyn has struggled defending set pieces this season. If you're Marlon LeBlanc, you certainly appreciate the set pieces when you're in possession. But when we talked to him earlier this week, Eric, he specifically identified that's the difference between Brooklyn FC being in the top 8 in the East and being outside the top 8, where they currently sit in USL Championship play. That's 12th with only 7 points to their name. Just a lack of size, a lack of physicality. Hartford Athletic, that's where they specialize, and it's been a battle for them to score consistently this year, but they can get up over you and make you pay. This is going to be tricky tonight for Brooklyn.
And we see that with expansion sides, with first-year clubs, where roster construction, obviously,
the flag is up.
You bring in players that have experience within USL Championship, MLS. Obviously, coaching Marlon LeBlanc has been with Philly Union 2, has been in the college ranks. But you also build it around the identity in which you want to forge forward with, and you start to see some of the deficiencies going as your season kind of goes underway and progresses. But that's where the identity is strong within this group. Now, some of those subtleties and those fine margins have exposed themselves to the point that you just made, the giving up and conceding free kicks deeper in their defensive third, having to deal with those, and then some of the verticality that you get with the pressing moments from Brooklyn FC.
Conte kept that in play. Right foot dribbler, and that's cleared away, no problems by Real. But Brooklyn, job not done by Hartford, and they continue to put pressure on this back line for Hartford. Hartford is really having to labor right now. McNamara is finally dispossessed by Augie Williams, and for a moment, Hartford Athletic can get a breather. This is a very promising start for Brooklyn. They have, over the last month or so, developed a bit of a bothersome press, and that's really what they've ridden to some of this competitiveness as of late.
Well, and that's what we were just talking about with the fine margins on the defensive set pieces, but also how it affects some of the direct play and verticality that you force teams into when you press as well as Brooklyn has been pressing. I mean, you're having your back line and your midfield have to deal with some of that vertical threat, and it puts you under a lot of pressure. I mean, this is a Brooklyn side that lead the league in clearances per match at 33.4. So they are seeing a lot of those kind of clipped in services to that back line, and then obviously some of the areas where you've got to deal with final third entries and services into your own 18-yard box. So, you know, it's trying to convert some of those secondary and actions into production going forward. That last drive by Conte is going to be influential, because if you can get to the byline and get into spaces like this, you're going to continue to push Hartford back into their own 18-yard box, and that just forces a lot of traffic in front of Anthony Siaha.
Latinovic. Now McLaughlin. Brooklyn FC has had into the attacking half of the vast majority of the opening 12 minutes here at Maimonides Park. Stojanovic. Now McLaughlin tries to drive inside onto his right foot. That's headed away niftily at the border of the 6-yard box. Good control there. And Hartford desperately trying to keep some possession, and they won't. This falls right on the feet of McNamara.
And that's uncharacteristic from a player like Augie Williams. Class in that hold-up play. Good ball.
Van Kayasale, and that's put just wide. Obregon with a phenomenal overlapping run. Van Kayasale put it right onto his right toe, and it sprays wide of Siaha.
Well, you can just see how effective this team is working off of each other and the rhythm that they're playing with, because as soon as they get faced up on the ball, the movement is electric, it's dynamic, it's diverse. And I think that's presenting a lot of different problems for Hartford Athletic right now. But that's where moments of matches matter, because for Brooklyn FC, you're seeing a lot of the momentum, you're seeing a lot of the energy in favor of your side right now, but the game of football is so delicate where now you need to find that breakthrough. You need to create and earn that moment to go ahead in this match.
In that March 21st match between these two sides in the USL Championship, again, Hartford Athletic over Brooklyn 2-1. It was a goal from Coffey and a goal from Anderson that was the difference. Hartford with those 2 goals, but in the second half of that match, Brooklyn outshot Hartford 17-5, and Hartford Athletic had to hang on for dear life, and it certainly looks like here in the opening nearly 15 minutes of this match, that has carried over a little bit from nearly 2 months ago. Just to show you how nip and tuck the USL Championship is, especially in the East, Hartford went through, and we'll talk about this, a nearly 600-minute goal-scoring drought, yet Hartford is sitting 4th in the Eastern Conference in the USL Championship with only 3 victories to their name and only 9 goals on their resume as well. In fact, the +1 goal differential for Hartford is the lowest goal differential of any team that is on the right side of the playoff line here in mid-May.
And you look at the points, and you bring up Brooklyn FC in this conversation in regards to, you flip some of the losses for Brooklyn FC into draws, much like Hartford has. They have the 4 draws and only the 1 loss. I mean, those are valuable points, whereas in Brooklyn, they've let some of these tighter matches slip away and earn 0 points. And that's where, for both these sides, obviously stepping out of the regular season play in Prinx Tires USL Cup, it's going to be a situation for Brooklyn. Can you not only manage the match, but can you go after it? Can you attack it in a lot of these loud moments?
Brooklyn FC fans, this is your chance to get even closer to the action and experience Brooklyn FC from a whole new perspective. Scan the QR code. If you're looking at your screen, it's bottom right there. Get your phones out of your tablet. Enter for a chance to win 4 free seats in Brooklyn FC's new pitch side seating area. These seats put you steps from the action where every pass, tackle, and goal happens right in front of you. Brooklyn FC fans, again, that QR code, scan their win for free pitch side seats. Well, this venue, as that's blocked away, is it a corner, is it a goal kick? And the answer is goal kick, says Luis Arroyo. But this venue is taking on a lot of different opinions from people around the USL Championship, coaches and players and observers. That goes for the USL Super Cup Super League on the women's side as well. And some interesting comments earlier this week from Brendan Burke, third-year manager of Hartford Athletic, where he said, quote, "It's uniquely bad in the sense that it's small, it's tight, and it's turf." And that probably echoes a lot of what you and I have heard from different personnel in the USL Championship. Now, all of that said, Brooklyn, they can turn this into a pretty prodigious home field advantage. It doesn't matter if it's uncomfortable. That's the whole point. And Brooklyn FC, they're not going to apologize for it.
Well, and that's where, for Brooklyn FC, you've seen it throughout this season, is the flexibility and the adaptability tactically from this group. They can play in a 3-back. They can play with 4 in the back. They can shape shift in a lot of different moments on and off the ball, and that's what you need to have the ability of when you're playing at home. It's going to ask and demand something different than when you're playing on the road.
Matt Rial is going to deliver the opening corner of this match. And it's a short corner. Rial now whips it in, back post. This is dangerous, and going up to snag it is Jackson Lee, making his 5th start of the season. It has been a bit of a carousel with this Brooklyn FC goalkeeping situation, but Lee has the most starts. He has started to turn into the favored goalkeeper. And Marlon LeBlanc telling us that he was going to get the go tonight because, especially with the size and the physicality of Hartford Athletic, particularly on set pieces, you need someone who's vocal, somebody who's the better communicator, and Jackson Lee fits the mold just a bit more.
Yeah, and for any team, when you can have two goalkeepers, that now you're picking the goalkeeper, the right goalkeeper for the right moment and the right opponent, and that's where for both these teams, or for Brooklyn, both these goalkeepers, Burns and Lee, have such qualities that you can present different challenges to different opponents, and you're gonna have to deal with some of the direct play from Hartford, and that's where Jackson Lee, that command, that physicality, the ability to fight through traffic becomes so imperative.
This is well fed, but nobody, as it was laid off near the penalty spot. And now the chase is on, and Augie Williams will not be able to get to it for Hartford Athletic. Yeah, Lucas Burns, as you said, Eric, the other goalkeeper, and probably the better shot stopper, probably the one who has the better range, but the skill set, at least for a team that can go aerial on you like Hartford can. Jackson Lee gets the nod tonight.
And Burns got the start against New York Cosmos in that first match of the USL Cup. Obviously collected the clean sheet.
Now, Brooklyn had the victory in the opening match, but right now, as it stands in real time, Brooklyn is not at the top of the Group 5 table in the Prinx Tires USL Cup. That belongs to Portland Heart of Pines, who took out Rhode Island earlier today, 2-1. So all 3 points to the USL League One side, and they now have 4 in the table, and they, for now, sit first place in Group 5.
And that goes back to the unique setup of the USL Cup. And it's midweek fixtures, and obviously we're playing on the weekend, but you have kind of it sandwiched in between regular season games. So the narrative that changes per match, the storyline that it presents, because for Brooklyn FC, you get the full 3 points in match 1. Does Hartford have to go after all 3 points to feel any chance of winning this group? And then for Brooklyn, if you pick up 3 points tonight, you play Portland Hearts of Pine next, and then you play a Rhode Island FC side in the last matchup who might feel like they're completely out of it at that point. So where are they within the regular season and squad rotation to go after that third match, in the USL Cup?
Now, Rhode Island got the 2 points with the penalties victory over Hartford in their match in this Prinx Tires USL Cup, and then coming up empty against the League One side, and Rhode Island backs against the wall now. The winner of the group goes through, and then the most points from a second place side gets in to the knockout stage of the USL Cup as well. So points are at a premium. Brooklyn, if they win tonight, they're all but assured that they're moving on. Not a lot of pace on that shot, and no issues for Britton Fisher. But right back at it is Brooklyn as Conte tries to thread the needle. And Jordan Scarlett sends that high into this Saturday night New York City sky.
Right now, the biggest disappointment for Brooklyn FC right now is going to be not the entry in the service, but the inability to get first contact on some of these deliveries.
McLaughlin couldn't get it to Obregon. It was a bit behind him, and then a foul as Augie make that. Augie Williams was trying to get out on the run, and his legs got tangled with Alves, who went tumbling to the turf. Williams doesn't like the whistle. Brooklyn, they'll get play restarted. Augie Williams, a champion with Pittsburgh Riverhounds last year in this USL Championship, hoisted a trophy, headed to Hartford, the defending champs of the USL Cup.
I've not seen heavy involvement from Augie Williams thus far, but that has been why teams bring him in terms of the instant effectiveness when you can go forward. He doesn't need a lot of touches to impact a match, and he'll find his way, and he'll find the impact he can have.
Real, a diving header. And now the race is on. And that's mishit by Ryan McLaughlin, the St. Patrick's athletic man, Ireland First Division. Now a stalwart on the back line for Brooklyn FC. Hartford top 4 in the USL Championship in the Eastern Conference. And they had a 2-1 victory over Detroit City last weekend. A much needed 3 points against a very quality side in Detroit City. Hartford did it in a pretty unconventional way. Dispay for Hartford had quite the evening, as there was an own goal in the 59th minute for this Hartford Athletic side to take the lead. Dispay scores an own goal in the 84th minute to draw things 1-1, and then Dispay with the winner off of a set piece in the 89th minute. So it goes from despair for Dispay, and there's a misplay in the back, nearly despair for Brooklyn FC, and it's headed briefly out of the danger area. Finally, a chance to reset, and now Hartford's starting to find a little bit more of the ball. But Dispay, Arturo Dispay, calamity, thinking that off of his foot, it's going to be only 1 point, as there is a nasty shot that may have been a pass, and it goes off of the extended left toe of Obalola, who puts his hands on his head. Just a split second late stabbing at this ball. I think it was a shot. Obalola was all of a sudden making a run on that near post. I did not see the flag go up. He appeared to be onside.
Their end point is that quick strike ability from Hartford Athletic. They're not going to see this spell of possession and the momentum that we sense from Brooklyn. They're not going to take that and feel any sort of fear from it or reserve from it. They're going to still be incredibly brave going forward and incredibly resilient in the way that they approach this match.
That's a strong turn. Morera make that Obalola, and he's chopped down. But they are going to end up calling that on Obalola, and he definitely did lean in to Alves.
And I would believe that the adjustment, or what you want to see kind of lend itself into this match for Brendan Burke and his side, is some of the proximity between Obalola and Augie Williams, because yes, you have Augie Williams who will threaten a back line and keep them honest and make sure that they're not drifting forward because of the threat he does present. But you need somebody to work off of, and that's where Obalola can be so effective. But if he's dropped so deep defending and Augie Williams is so high, I mean, you're looking at a 25, 30-yard distance between them. And we talk about the Titan confines here. That's still an aggressive number to have to attach going forward. So that's going to be something moving and progressing through this game. As this ball goes forward, can they get a bit closer? Can they connect? Can they link up play, work off of each other?
This will be easily vacuumed up by Vuk Latinovic, who received a whole lot of praise from Marlon LeBlanc, first-year manager for Brooklyn this week. Can McLaughlin get there? The answer is yes. The flag stays down. McLaughlin waits for reinforcements. Obregon! That was blocked. Hartford, they definitely sacrificed their bodies defensively. We have seen fully horizontal to the turf Hartford white-clad bodies here tonight. That is a lot of effort back there. And this is a long ball over the top. And this is a battle, and this is a throw-in for Hartford Athletic, I believe, or has it been awarded to Brooklyn? There you get a look at Obalola, the Nigerian. 2 goals last year for Hartford Athletic. He has a goal this season. Real is down. And there's Anthony Siaha to go ahead and give an initial medical check. Siaha also in his second year. 4th in the championship in clean sheets a year ago with 25 of them. He had 3 clean sheets in Hartford Athletics' run to the USL Cup Championship last year. He is long, he is rangy, he is quick, he has outstanding reflexes. Anthony Siaha is the complete package.
And you put that all together, and he is intimidating. I mean, you step up for a PK shootout, forget about it. I mean, you are second-guessing everything. You're inside the box, you are fast-forwarding, you're thinking to how much quality you need on this finish to beat a goalkeeper like Anthony Siaha, and that's something that is influential into second-guessing and providing some doubt into an attacking player.
So Real is still down, and we're going to take a look at what happened. And Real, oh, that's non-contact. And that certainly looks like he's clutching at a right hamstring.
Unfortunately, you saw Siaha signal for the substitution as soon as he was coming up.
Yep.
To Real, and you just hope that, you know, it does look like something that would probably bring him out of this game, but you just hope for his sake and his team's sake that it's not something that keeps him out long term. You know, we know how some of these injuries can be constant and nagging. You can take care of it, and it just reappears, and it's so frustrating.
You can see it on his face too. Real, so promising, was at Colorado Springs, Philadelphia Union, Union 2, was the captain of the USU 20 when that side won the 2018 CONCACAF title. And he is in discomfort. The physio still working on that right leg.
And a player that Marlon LeBlanc for Brooklyn FC is very familiar with. And we talk about just the injury initially, but then the long-term effects. This is a player that covers so much ground. I mean, up and down, the influence in both boxes, how play is determined defensively, and then the quality and some of the numbers you generate in those wide spaces in the attacking half. So this is a player that is so explosive, getting himself either recovering defensively or getting into the attacking half. As you can see, the acknowledgement. Only junior. We do see a change coming.
So our first substitution comes due to injury. Brendan Burke having to go to the bench. So off comes Real, and the night begins for Malik Pinto. Pinto, the former Princeton man, or is it is Jai, I'm sorry. Pinto, who is on the Brooklyn FC bench tonight. Babukar NG, signed at the midway point last year. The Gambia international is called into the match. So again, Real out with injury. Babukar NG comes on, and this is a sky ball in front of goal. And Brooklyn will launch it away. Racing into the attacking third. Defenders falling down, across, finds nobody. We have a whistle behind the play.
Another Hartford player down, and this looks.
We saw on the back end, and it's Adewale Abalola. We saw on the back end him streaking down the pitch, trying to get back defensively, and then he wiped out. I did not see initially if there was any contact. So Babukar NG might not be the only Hartford player to have to come on in short order, depending on what occurred here.
And you see it here, you mentioned it.
Oh, that's another non-contact.
Just so gut-wrenching to see, obviously, any player get hurt at any moment in a match, but in quick succession like we've just seen.
We saw Real with a right leg. This is Obalola with a left leg. You wonder if you start to see someone like Engelina have to get up and start to get loose for Hartford Athletic. Obalola sitting now. Adewale Obalola, who has really continued to find himself here in a Hartford Athletic shirt.
And you just see the clear discomfort that he's in right now. And mentioned the frustration with the first injury, and now this one here. These are changes that obviously you wish you don't have to make, and then on top of that, just the unexpected nature of them. 35 minutes into the game.
Yeah, you are facing the prospect just past the half-hour mark of using up a second substitution. So the physio's been busy here over the last 5 to 6 minutes. And you see Williams give the substitution sign to the touchline. As his teammates stand over him. Hartford has been stricken by some injury woes this year. This certainly won't help. Oh, he is having all sorts of problems finding any sort of stability. And so we are going to have our second substitution in a less than 5-minute span for Hartford Athletic. And Adewale Obalola is having to be helped off, carried off the pitch, in fact, with that stricken left leg.
It does look like it's Engelina, to the point you were making earlier, that it's going to come on. And we just wish both players a speedy recovery and their ability to come back and help this Hartford Athletic side, and just want players to be able to navigate a season as healthy as possible and as available as possible.
Michi Engelina is going to see action with still 10 minutes to go in this opening 45, and well, we're going to have significantly more than 10 minutes left of this first half. With Eric Dobransky, I'm Ken Levicka. This is the Prinx Tires USL Cup second match for both sides, Maimonides Park in Brooklyn, New York, Coney Island. And so Engelina will come on. And it is not lost on, I'm sure, managers, teammates, us, that you've had two what appear to be muscle injuries for Hartford Athletic in short order, and now Engelina needs to come on without being able to get warm at all.
I was just about to say the same thing. Is you kind of compound situations like this where you don't have that kind of runway to get warmed up and get effectively kind of ready to come onto a match, and that's the unfortunate situation when you deal with kind of those sudden injuries. And you wish those two players the best, and you just hope that Hartford Athletic does not have to see any more of that the rest of the match.
This is chunked high into the air. Van Kayazeel feeds it to Jackson Lee. To see how quickly you go from the back to the attacking half. That is certainly one of the quirks here. This artificial surface. This was natural turf at this venue, but then when Hurricane Sandy rolled through in 2012, this facility took severe damage, and the turf was replaced with this artificial surface in 2013. This is the high A minor league home of the Brooklyn Cyclones, the farm system of the New York Mets. The Cyclones named after, and you might be able to see it in the background, the sun has not set yet, but the famous Cyclone roller coaster. It, by the way, Eric, is the second steepest wooden roller coaster in the world.
Yeah, no thanks.
The Cyclone.
I'll let somebody else enjoy that element of fun.
All those rides you see in the background on Luna Park here at Coney Island. The rare time that we will see or have seen Hartford Athletic in the attacking half in this opening 45, with Brooklyn trying to feed but now have to defer, and now it's whipped into the area. Problems with it on the clearance. McLaughlin, and a sacrificial block. Boubacar Ng, he comes into the match as a first half substitution and immediately makes an impact.
And clever play from Brooklyn, because I mentioned earlier that first contact that was lacking in some of the delivery, but Stojanovic just drops into that space, understanding that he's not going to be able to go up and challenge, so he can get himself on the ball on that second phase. And then this block defensively, I mean, we've seen it throughout this first half, the ability to sell out in a timely manner.
And NG once again comes up to deny that corner. And Siaha is furious with the official on the near side. The initial indication was another corner. And Siaha furious. You could see him, you could hear him, and eventually he got the benefit of the doubt.
You had brought this up just a few moments ago with what we're seeing from this match, and you get the sense that Brooklyn is controlling a lot of tempo in the attacking half. I mean, right now possession is 61-39, 61% towards Brooklyn, 39 towards Hartford. But with the confines of this field and the ability to get up and down at the pace that this game is being played at, final third entries are almost identical. I mean, 23 for Brooklyn, final third entries, 21 for Hartford Athletic. So for Hartford Athletic, still seeing a number of chances to get into the final third. Now, they are not efficiently converting that into box entries, and 3 of those 21 entries have turned into touches in the opposition box.
This was a high boot from Obregon. Oof. Right into Sebastian Anderson's left knee. And that's a good point on the possession. With a pitch as small as this, and there's always going to be debate about what possession actually means. Everybody has their own interpretation. Any manager you talk to has their opinion. Do you need possession? Does it mean anything? It's stylistic. It's part of a game plan, or it isn't. But a pitch this size, a venue this size, possession really probably more often than not does not matter because of how quickly you can get from one end to the other. Speaking of, Stojanovic. Now to Conte, who makes the turn. Conte, eyes up, looking for distribution. And a foul, and Payne. Augie Williams exasperated as Alves, who has been very pesky and very active for Brooklyn FC, goes to ground. What did you see there?
And Brooklyn do a good job. You can see Augie Williams kind of clipping him with his left cleat. Augie Williams is always going to be that relentless runner and that player that just puts back lines under so much pressure, because not only will he be able to generate some offensive attacks from teammates and their ability to play make and their entry passes, but he'll generate some of the simply kind of chaotic moments where you're just pressing a defender, you're picking off a pass, you're jumping into some passing lanes and reading those cues. So you've always got to be aware of that and not get too casual, especially in a game like this where you are seeing a lot of the possession. You're seeing a lot of the side-to-side movement, getting the ball in and around the box, recirculating, reconstructing. You don't want to be too casual in a moment where you play maybe a flat ball or not enough pace and you have Hartford Athletic jump all over it.
And a push in the back as Alves Returns the fouling favor to Hartford Athletic. Standing over it, Sebastian Anderson. Led the team in minutes last year for the defending USL Cup champions. This is sent low, it's mishit, and McNamara sweeps it away. Well, the concern for Brooklyn was the directness, the ability to play over the top, the ability to play aerial football. And so far, Hartford has not looked particularly dangerous, but perhaps something developing here. That cross is blocked away, and McNamara cleans it up. It gives it away immediately on a Makangila. And there are deflections all over the place. Anderson's attempt to strike it low in the direction of Augie Williams is blasted across the touchline on the far side. As you see, Nathan's in the background. That'll be busy in a little under 2 months' time, 4th of July, Nathan's hot dog eating contest. The house that Joey Chestnut built, or at least has brought to significantly more prominence. Put it that way. High in the air on the throw-in. And a foul. And it's Elvis again, who has spent an awful lot of time on this artificial surface here tonight.
And Brooklyn aren't going to have to look very far to know how ruthless and clinical Hartford Athletic can be when they do hit the attacking half, because I mean their last matchup, Brooklyn had 70% of possession, 30% for Hartford. Shots on target, 11-2. 2 for Hartford. They won the match 2-1. So you talk about efficiency defining a match. I mean, you take your chances and you convert them. That'll change the trajectory of the outcome.
And Galena was fouled. Hartford has at least put the brakes on Brooklyn's attack a bit here. Brooklyn hasn't really been able to formulate much, and while they may be leading appreciably in possession, Hartford Athletic has started to chip away at that a bit. And no surprises here with the 2 injury substitutions for Hartford Athletic. We have 9 additional minutes here in half number 1. Makangila tried to keep it in the attacking third. Brooklyn forced to clear the ball out of play against that left field wall. And those 2 substitutions for Hartford in what is typically going to be a matchup where rotation is key, already going to handcuff Brendan Burke, Hartford manager, a bit. This is fed into the area, close range, but nobody in the vicinity at the last moment, and Jackson Lee is able to scoop it into his chest. Hartford coming on strong again. 1-2, and then Samuel Carriaga blows a tire, and now a push in the back, and Britton Fisher is the guilty party.
That's high footballing acumen right there from Obregon Jr., because knowing that his team is under pressure, so his responsibility is not necessarily get on the ball, turn and go at. It is the hold-up play, and obviously if you can lean yourself in and earn a free kick, slow the game down, get your team back on the ball. And here Tommy McNamara is asking for some distance here.
McNamara, an old wily veteran, 35 years of age. Part of that New England Revolution squad, 2020 Supporter Shield in Major League Soccer. And a yellow is shown to Carriaga. So there's our first booking of the night in what's been allowed to be a fairly physical affair. So Luis Arroyo uses his pocket for the first time. That was a good idea, but Siaha puts his iron right foot and delivers this back to the midfield. Hartford able to win a throw-in.
And that's the problem that Brooklyn FC are running into, is just the volume of bodies that you have behind the ball, because you break one line, you've got to break another two before you can get to Siaha. So how are you able to generate and regenerate attacks and eliminate numbers efficiently and effectively? That's going to be for Brooklyn FC to break down. Can you do it on the dribble? Do you do it with link-up play? There's going to be a moment where a player's going to have to do it on the dribble and move some defenders, and that's where Conte hasn't been heavily involved, but has that ability, and Stojanovic has the ability to unlock it with some of his strikes from distance.
Some of these Brooklyn crosses are a bit of deliver and pray here. Not necessarily looking to find an attacker, and now we have a whistle, and now we have McLaughlin going to ground, and now we have a card and a great set piece opportunity for the hosts.
And with as well as Hartford Athletic has been defending inside their box, you gotta feel like that was a needless foul, because now you put yourself in a situation where a driven ball on the ground, some traffic that you have to battle through. I mean, this could be an extremely dangerous moment for Brooklyn FC as you see this first half kind of come to a close.
Two substitutions already for Hartford Athletic with injuries in the opening half, and now two players in the book, Samuel Cariaga and Babukar NG. So you also have to pay attention to that. Obregon and Olney stand over this. Siaha directing traffic. Obregon, that was wasteful. Alvis went to ground in the box, was looking for a call. Luis Arroyo says play on, and then that is up and over the goal. Nothing developing there for Brooklyn, despite being gifted a really strong opportunity.
And you question the premise of what they wanted that outcome to look like, because it did look like it was set up for a left-footed strike and something that could kind of work its way around that wall, and you had a player screening Siaha, so you felt like that was going to be where they wanted to go, but unable to get that ball up and over and dip to that far post. Obregon Jr.
Well, all competitions, and there's about 4 minutes left to go in this first half. And while it hasn't been promising at times for Hartford, they are on the verge of continuing their first half clean sheet away from home this season. Not a roll for a Jackson Lee goal kick. But both sides in the final third, at the very least, the moment of truth, neither side has been anything close to clinical. If anything, the proper word is probably sloppy. There's a bit of a hoping aspect instead of an execution aspect to it.
And that's where the composure comes in, the ability to be quality and technical in the moments that matter, especially in the final third, where you just lack so much space. You can go build through the back, build through the middle third, but as soon as you hit that final third, it's got to be quick, decisive, and it's got to pop off your foot.
Strong individual effort, Junior Moreta. It was worked back to NG. We have just under 2 minutes, at least an initial clock glimpse. The ultimate decision will be made by Luis Arroyo. Stay with us at halftime. We will look at some of the strong opportunities for both sides, though neither able to break the threshold on the score line. Give you numbers from the opening half as well, and some of Eric Dobransky's world-famous footballing analysis.
World famous in my own head. I don't know how.
World famous to me too. There's world famous Nathan's Hot Dogs.
Yep.
And there's Eric Dobransky's world famous analysis here tonight. That took a fortuitous deflection, but Hartford able to finally send it skyward to the midfield. And then Conte is called for a foul, and he's going into the book. Abdoulaye Conte. Just a bit too late on that challenge was Conte. Went prattling into the back.
And we typically talk about first half yellow cards when they come to defenders because of the physical actions that follow the defensive responsibilities. I would say it also goes into the conversation with a player like Conte, and you have that physical presence as an attacking player, and a lot of your presence is predicated on getting into those second actions and being gritty in a lot of those moments, those tight moments inside the box where you're just diving in to get a touch, or you're stretching out to get onto a header. So does that force him to play more measured to see the rest of this match out? And as we go to the break, I mean, you almost have to feel like Hartford is the team that can grow into confidence here. That you've seen spells here where they find some consistency, and what they've done a good job of is, as this first half wore on, they found the pockets of space to play into and be the outlets where the numbers were vacated for Brooklyn, and that allowed them to get forward. For Brooklyn, it's about finding that final moment.
No breakthrough yet. Brooklyn FC, Hartford Athletic 0-0 as we head to the dressing room. Halftime show on the way here from Brooklyn. It's the Prinx Tires USL Cup on ESPN+.
Hearts. No two beat the same. So we built a team of the best heart surgeons, pioneers of the most modern techniques, who always find the one approach that's best for you. But while each surgery is unique, the outcome is the same: the highest success rates. NYU Langone Health.
"42 clubs in the USL Championship and League One will form 7 groups filled out by region. Each club will play 4 group matches, and when the dust settles, the 7 group winners will advance along with 1 wildcard team, not 2 wildcards like last year. The remaining 8 clubs will be drawn into 4 quarterfinal matches with 1 stipulation: the wild card cannot be drawn against its group winner. The 4 quarterfinal winners will then be drawn for the semifinal round, with the 2 finalists drawn to determine the host for the Prinx Tires USL Cup final.
Nil-nil, Brooklyn FC, Hartford Athletic. With Eric Dobransky, I'm Ken Levicka. We'll have more halftime on the way. But Brooklyn hanging in there, Eric Dobransky.
It's going to be about now generating the quality inside the box because they're doing a lot of work in and around the 18. But now can you find that breakthrough? And then for Hartford Athletic, continue to find success in some of the outlet play that you found that last 10-15 minutes of the first half.
Brooklyn FC, Hartford Athletic, 0-0 after 45. More halftime on the way. Prinx Tires USL Cup right here on ESPN+.
Pain doesn't care who you are or why you hurt, but pain can be mastered if you know the way. Fight back with Tiger Balm's legendary herbal power. Trusted for over 100 years, our proven blend of camphor, menthol, and essential oils tames pain with the strength and speed of the tiger, so that you can rise above pain and get back to living. This is the way of the tiger.
Today, we accomplished nothing. I mean it, not a thing. And it was kinda everything.
Stay 3 nights this summer at Best Western and get $50 off a future stay.
Prinx tires in the USL help soccer journeys everywhere to drive harder. From city playgrounds to suburban sidelines, from early mornings to late nights, from fun with friends to winner takes all, from the biggest fan to the biggest heart. And at every turn, Prinx tires will be there for the long haul.
Back on Coney Island, 0-0 scoreline. Brooklyn FC, Hartford Athletic. This is the second match of the Prinx Tires USL Cup. We will have more of the USL Cup after this on ESPN+.
When Hartford Athletics' Adrian Deespace scored in the 83rd minute against Rhode Island FC, it began a furious finish to the 2025 USL Cup group stage finales. Deespace's goal kept Hartford alive in the race to advance in the competition as a wild card. Less than 10 minutes later in Detroit, Matt Sheldon capped Detroit City's 3-0 win over Westchester SC, taking that wild card away from Hartford. Minutes later in Kentucky, Louisville City's Jake Morris scored twice in added time to defeat Lexington SC 2-1. Louisville was now the owner of the wild card, but not for long. Back in Pawtucket, Hartford outlasted Rhode Island in a penalty kick shootout. Hartford Athletic reclaimed the wild card spot that 2 other clubs held for mere minutes. So how did we get here? Well, after 4 group stage matches, Hartford Athletic and Louisville City were tied with 9 points. The first tiebreaker, total goals. Hartford scored 9, Louisville had 8. And that wild card spot launched Hartford's run to the USL Cup title. This year's Cup promises even more drama. 42 clubs in the USL Championship and League One will form 7 groups filled out by region. Each club will play 4 group matches, and when the dust settles, the 7 group winners will advance along with 1 wild card team, not 2 wild cards like last year. The remaining 8 clubs will be drawn into 4 quarterfinal matches with 1 stipulation. The wild card cannot be drawn against its group winner. The 4 quarterfinal winners will then be drawn for the semifinal round, with the 2 finalists drawn to determine the host for the Prinx Tires USL Cup final.
Thank you so much, Dan, for that trip down memory lane. Hartford Athletics USL Cup Championship a year ago. Here is Group 5. Portland Hearts of Pine with their 2-1 triumph over Rhode Island earlier on this Saturday. They sit top of table, but if Brooklyn FC can get at least a draw, they will find themselves still in the mix for that top spot in Group 5. Hartford Athletic, meanwhile, they really could use the 3 points tonight, or that title defiance might go away.
And again, that's that balance, that complement of not only match management, but managing the group setting that you see for Brooklyn FC. You pick up 3 points, make everybody chase you. You control the rest of this group. So 45 minutes to manage this match, but also find the breakthrough to get you all 3 of those points.
Portland, Brooklyn, New York, Rhode Island, Hartford, Westchester. That is in order. Group 5 of the Prinx Tires USL Cup. Second half on the way. This is the Prinx Tires USL Cup, ESPN Plus. Prinx Tires, proud to be the presenting sponsor of the Prinx Tires USL Cup. Built for practical performance and the long haul, Prinx delivers reliability for everyday drivers like you. Visit PrinxTireUSA.com to learn more. Maimonides Park, Brooklyn, New York. With Eric Dobransky, I'm Ken Levicka. Brooklyn FC and Hartford Athletic are deadlocked at halftime. Zeros across the board.
inside the 18-yard box. So that is a big positive for Marlon LeBlanc and his side.
Yeah, extremely lopsided in that shots category. Very similar to the second half of the previous meeting between these two sides in league play, that 2-1 Hartford Athletic triumph, but they were clinging by the fingernails in that final 45, outshot 17-5 by Brooklyn. So this is more of the same consecutively now. Second half back in March the 21st, and now tonight, first half here at Maimonides Park.
And anytime you have that discrepancy, it's both sides going into the break and then leaning into the identity that you currently have and the identity that you're going to carry with you in the future. And how does that identity go out and impact results and outcomes and what it looks like in the final third, or in both boxes, to be honest.
No substitutions at halftime, obviously, for Hartford Athletic. They don't have many bullets left in the barrel right now, because they have already substituted 2 times thanks to injury. And so the options for Brandon Burke are a bit limited here as we get underway in half number 2 with Eric Dobransky. I'm Ken Levicka. Maimonides Park in legendary Coney Island, Brooklyn, New York. The expansion side in the USL Championship. Brooklyn FC and Hartford. This is played through, and the start of the second half is an offside. The flag was up. It was a nifty run. Bamici and Galena just a bit too quick trying to sneak behind the defense.
I know we're only less than a minute in, but the sequence before this had a lot of intent as well. So you already come out for Hartford Athletic playing on the front foot and playing in a mode where you want to face forward, you want to have numbers in those areas. Just a step offside there from Galena, but you have to like the spaces that both those players are playing into and how close they're playing off of each other.
Well, that was certainly the brightest attacking sequence for Hartford Athletic here tonight. But Van Kayazil and Latinovic at the last moment playing Galena offside. Hartford Athletic, their first trophy in a quarter century last year, winning the USL Cup. A 1-0 victory over Sacramento Republic. That did the trick in a title defense, but if they cannot register a multi-point outing, then that title defense may be quickly dissipating. Meanwhile, Brooklyn trying to dissipate the 0-0 scoreline. And it's right on to Siaha. Only said I might as well go for it. He has been quiet so far tonight. Lets it rip from distance, but right into the chest of Siaha, who did not give an opportunity at a rebound.
And this is one way that you can start opening up space in behind the back line of Hartford. If you can show true threat from those shots from distance, you force defenders to have to step appropriately, have to close down that space, make it a bit more challenging.
And this forces a save from Siaha. Siaha wasn't expecting that to be on target, and suddenly he had to sprawl and stretch off to his left-hand side to keep it zeros on the scoreline. That came out of absolute nowhere. It may have taken a deflection, but Van Kayazil nearly had a spectacular goal out of absolutely nothing.
Well, and I was just about to layer in that those chances and those shots from distance have to be special to beat a goalkeeper like Siaha. But there you almost catch him, and maybe it was a bit of a moment where you're organizing the players in front of you defensively, expecting a service, and then, to your point, takes a bit of a deflection and almost goes on in the back of the net.
Yeah, that was definitely a service. I don't think there's any question about that. But man, Siaha with those quick reflexes. And Brooklyn looks similar to the way they started the match, and that is asking some questions. It rolls through to Conte. Conte with some space. Conte. Olney. And not a good delivery. That's been a problem for Brooklyn most of the evening. Just nothing doing in the box. Perhaps that changes now. No. McNamara. And Brooklyn is going to head back into the defensive half and try and reset themselves. Conte. Now Olney. Unsure of it for a moment was Prestis. Conte trying to work through traffic. That's eventually taken by Anderson. Brooklyn instituting that press. Hartford has had its issues tonight with it. Hartford went to penalties against Rhode Island in the opener of the Prinx Tires USL Cup. Came out on the wrong end of those trips to the spot. Picked up a point. If you're able to pull at least a result at the end of regulation in this Prinx Tires USL Cup, you're able to get a point. If you win penalties, it's 2 points, and with a loss in penalties, it stays at a single point, and of course a win, you get all 3. Brooklyn can head to top of table with 3 points tonight. That doesn't get through. As tough as it's been at times in the attack for Hartford Athletic, their ability to track back defensively and get their bodies in passing lanes has been pristine. Absolutely sensational. And Galena nifty. This is chopped back towards Engalina, but it never got through. Britton Fisher trying to find it on a 1-2.
And the scenarios you just outlined for the USL Cup, it gives you a sense that for Hartford, as this game progresses, do they find...
Flag up once again, another offside, this time Augie Williams.
That uptick in risk over reward. I mean, go ahead and throw the numbers going forward because you already have the point from the opening match. Is it almost a sense where 3 points are bust in this kind of matchup? Because with the win from Portland Hearts of Pine against Rhode Island FC, you can make this a logjam in Group 5 and put yourself in a progressive position to force and put a lot of pressure on the teams around you.
Conte, great ball, and it did not hold up enough for Obregon to get on the end of it. Obregon had split the defenders, but it was just a bit too far in front of them. Now Hartford is still going to have New York Cosmos and Westchester and Portland Heart of Pines. They are done with the USL Championship sides after tonight in the group stage. That said, if you don't get a result here tonight, say you don't take a single point from this evening, and you're stuck on a point with 3 matches left to go, and that would mean Brooklyn goes to 6, your chances of advancing as a group stage winner are extremely low, and really your most realistic chance is trying to sneak in with that wild card selection, but you'd only be on a point. That's up and over the head of Augie Williams. A curling cross, but just a bit too tall for Williams. And now a fight for it on the far side with Obregon, and he wins a throw-in.
We've done a lot of talking about defensive interventions from the Hartford Athletic side. And for Brooklyn FC, that being one of the bigger interventions defensively, because if you don't get a touch there, and I want to say that it was Okiyoshi making the trek back into the defensive box, making that last-ditch effort, influencing that play. That is how Hartford can strike any moment.
Here's Olney on the left side. Olney, step over. Olney trying to sneak in across. And once again, Hartford, right place, right time, well constructed defensively, and Prestis delivers it to the seats.
And trust me, you would rather be the team that is presenting these challenges with the numbers that Brooklyn is getting in, the collective opportunities and the volume that you're seeing. But you do get a feeling that free kicks like this.
Olney, Obregon, tight angle. And that's handled on the near post. Once again, look at Conte though. He's gonna chip it to the back post, but there was not a single black shirt in the vicinity. That doesn't get through either from distance. And that is Augie Williams going up and earning the foul. There is some urgency on both ends now, and Brooklyn has the significantly better time with the ball. The possession has been vastly superior, but boy, does Hartford condense defensively, and they look impenetrable right now.
Well, just as I was trying to make the point about those dead ball restarts, corners, free kicks, it just gives them the opportunity to present something unique in a scenario where, you know, defensive free kicks and corners, situationally and positionally, you're in different areas, so you're going to ask different movement from players that not necessarily set up as a right back, a center back, a wing back. You're just set up to occupy space, so can you pull people apart and teams apart, expose some of that space, and they almost did just that. But I also think the other area is, can they turn over Hartford in some areas where they're exposed and you can kind of have that quick strike ability.
Olney meanders into the middle. And then Hartford promptly gives it away. Augie Williams went to the ground. And then Siaha is simply going to watch the ball roll onto his yellow-shoed foot. With Eric Dobransky, I'm Ken Levicka. 0-0 between these two USL Championship sides in Group 5 of this Prinx Tires USL Cup. USL League One already beat USL Championship earlier today. Portland Heart of Pines 2, Rhode Island 1. All 3 points to Portland. They are 4 now. Top of table in real time. They are even with Brooklyn, 4 points in the table.
I was talking about the all or nothing of 3 points for Hartford. For Brooklyn, you earn a point with the draw, and then if you can take this into penalties and take the 2 points, that's in play for you because you do have Portland Hearts of Pine later on in the USL Cup, so you have that head-to-head matchup to come that you can heavily influence what points become available and what you can accumulate, as we do see more changes for Hartford and Brendan Brookside.
Third substitution of the night, Barry Coffey has come on for Junior Morera. Brendan Burke looking to find some help on the wings. At halftime, sorry, Eric, it was an 8-1 shots advantage for Brooklyn FC. And there hasn't been much progress chipping away at that from Hartford here in half number 2.
Coffey's the player that provided that game winner in the regular season match between these two sides.
Brooklyn has yet to unload anybody from the bench here tonight. Brooklyn also only has 21 players on the roster and is one of the smaller rosters in the championship. And this week, when asked about it, Marlon LeBlanc said, yeah, it's not ideal, but sporting director Brian McBride, the former U.S. men's national team legend, he wasn't brought in until late October, and then LeBlanc was named the head coach in November after his spell with Philadelphia Union. And some of these players came in and nobody knew anyone about them. You look at some film, you say, hey, looks good enough, here's a contract, and you work from there. That's one of the plights of an expansion side.
But what we've seen from Brooklyn and Marlon LeBlanc's side and their identity grow they've become very competitive. They've become, and they are extremely difficult to play against. Not a team, you know, early on you had some of the struggles of, they pick up the opening win against Indy 11, 1-0. So you get the goal via penalty conversion from Obregon Jr., the League One Golden Boot winner last year. And then you get the clean sheet, but besides that, it kind of fell out of form in terms of the consistency that you saw. Now you see it game in, game out from Brooklyn FC, and that's where that big step has been.
A takeaway and a feed into the box, but getting up high was Alves. Waiting was Engelina, hoping it would get by. And then suddenly on the counter, it's Olney. Overlap to Conte. Conte to his right foot, and then sends this skyward towards LaGuardia. McLaughlin able to catch up to it in the corner. Past the hour mark. Zeros across the board here in Coney Island.
Somebody that possesses so much quality, and now he is coming off. Conte, he had a lot of real estate to go after in that moment. Just take that big touch, drive at the 18-yard box, because with how committed Hartford is to get back behind the ball, it's going to take a special play on the ball to move that final defender, make that play, as we do see Conte coming off. We see a number of changes for Brooklyn.
Servania is coming on, Jaden Servania. Stojanovic's night is done. So some wholesale substitutions here. Sean Hundal. You see Marcus Anderson come onto the pitch. Anderson, the leading goal scorer this season for Brooklyn FC. So Marlon LeBlanc getting busy here with his substitutes. We'll see if that helps Brooklyn's ability to be a bit more surgical in the attacking third. They've gotten there, but haven't really had a ton of stellar opportunities because of the big physical bodies of Hartford Athletic.
It's still only the 2 shots on target for Brooklyn.
This is floated to Olney, controls. Olney looks in. Olney on his right foot, and Servania on the short hop. Olney just couldn't direct it, but Servania cut off the angle as well.
You like the aggressiveness, because as soon as he brings this down with a beautiful touch, you go at the defender, but just unable to follow it up with a clinical second action.
To that stay in play, the answer is yes. Prestis working hard. That is the 3rd shot on target tonight for Brooklyn. In the scorebook, one of them was definitely a delivery, but Servania had to make a save on it. By the way, for posterity purposes, Sean Hundal came in for Abdoulaye Conte. It was Servania taking off Stefan Stojanovic. This is wonderfully played through, and out of nothing, Hartford Athletic has the opener. Samuel Carriaga has given Hartford a 1-0 advantage. Brooklyn FC has controlled the match. They find themselves on the wrong end. The USL Cup MVP from a year ago strikes on the counter.
And he had the opening goal against Detroit City in the regular season lead up to this USL Cup match tonight. And you just see the commitment to that run and the timing of the arrival. And then through all of that traffic, you find the composure to tuck it away, and completely against what the momentum of this match was showcasing. But it also displays the threat that we've talked about from Hartford. They do not need the ball to be threatening and to find that goal. Well earned, well constructed from the play leading up to it. And frustration from the Brooklyn side has to be when you see a lot of the volume that you've seen in and around the box and in the final third, and now you're chasing a game.
How deflating. Brooklyn FC lopsided in favor of the home side in possession, in shots on target. But it's Samuel Carriaga who finds the back of the net to give Hartford Athletic the 1-0 lead. And boy, did they need that. And it doesn't matter how it comes. It doesn't matter when it happens. It did happen. And now Brooklyn needs to try and find an answer.
Well, now the subs that you brought in, you were thinking to bring in to go change the game. And
there might be more here. Augie Williams was offside. The flag goes up.
And now those substitutions are now brought on to go find the equalizer first. And this is where Brooklyn has to be careful, because you're going to have to go after an equalizer naturally, but you're also going to not want to leave yourself open and susceptible to conceding a second goal.
The way that Carriaga split Latinovic and Van Kayazeel, the two center backs for Brooklyn, looked eerily similar to the opening 30 seconds or so of this second half when Michi Engalina got behind both of them, but was a step offside. That looked very, very similar. Speaking of Engalina, he's in a battle with Alves, and Alves got the better of him.
And that's such a great point, because when you look at the goal and then, but as you mentioned, the run from Carriaga, the occupation of defenders from Engalina and Augie Williams from some of those early exchanges to begin this second half, when you can stall defenders and keep them planted in those areas and not allow them to condense and compact over a player, you open that channel. As now we see the foul against Brooklyn. These are going to be moments, it's still plenty of time, but slow the game down, and not only are you seeing valuable time come off the clock, but it's only going to increase the frustration from Brooklyn.
And so right now in the real-time table, guess who's tied for the top of the stage 5 or the group 5 lead? That is Hartford Athletic. Brooklyn FC fans, your shot to upgrade your game day. Scan the QR code on the screen. A chance to win 4 seats in Brooklyn FC's exclusive new pitch side section. Be right on top of the action. Experience the intensity of every play like never before. That's as close as it gets. And Galena denied. And now Marcus Anderson, always dangerous. And he has it played off his feet. Carriaga, the goal scorer, able to impede the progress of Anderson, formerly of Philadelphia Union. That's ripped away near side, out of play.
And typically, when you look at these fine margins in games that are sitting at 1-0, you tend to talk about the team that's leading. Can you use this time to find the second one? Earn kind of that breathing room between. But this is a Hartford Athletic side that feels completely comfortable. I mean, we've seen it throughout this match. We've seen it through regular season matches. They feel completely comfortable in these tight matches where they've got to get numbers behind the ball. They've got to make some of those desperation plays defensively. And they are incredibly responsible and committed to throwing their body around in the defensive third and making it difficult for any sort of sustained or maximized threat from the opponent.
Okiyoshi cannot link up. And Hartford has really made a concerted effort to get out on the run in this second half. It's already paid off for a goal, and now McNamara with a dangerous foul from behind, and McNamara is in the book. That was pretty cut and dry. So Thomas McNamara.
For Hartford, this second half has been predicated off of positioning. Instead of getting on the ball with back to goal, they have put themselves in a situation where they're facing goal and they're able to attack Brooklyn and force plays like that. And McNamara now on a yellow showcases two things. The point that I was just making about positioning for Hartford, their ability to expose space, drive into that space, but also Brooklyn's understanding that the next goal has to be theirs. They can't allow any sort of transition moment from Hartford. They can't allow any of this momentum and traction to lend itself to the Hartford side, so making sure that they stall out and blow up any play going forward. McNamara fully understood that he was going to make that play, but he was also going to receive a yellow.
Yeah, that was a fairly gnarly foul. That was late, and there was a high right boot as well. And then not helping Carriaga was the fact that he got sandwiched by both McNamara and Latinovic. But Carriaga is up. He has started to really take over this second half. He shone brightly last year in the USL Cup. Tonight's been a big night for him. Jackson Lee is able to snag that out of midair. There was a collision. Is that Augie Williams? I believe it is. I don't really know what the gripe is with Jackson Lee. He had every right to that ball.
It's this
it's
right
his knee.
yeah, that comes up.
You're right. That would be the gripe. You can hear his teammates as Latinovic is going to come over and try and police it. Augie Williams is favoring the left side of his face. Don't see a physio yet, as Augie Williams is laying there with a painful cheekbone. And while that drama happens, Peter Mangione is next up for Brooklyn. Desperate in the attack now is Marlon LeBlanc. Mangione is dangerous. Big Ten Offensive Player of the Year at Penn State, 2021-2023. Where is the attack going to come from Brooklyn? They have had it. They have lived in the attacking half for a majority of the night, but haven't been able largely to penetrate the steel wall of defenders for Hartford Athletic. And when they have, Sianya's been equal to the task. Siaha, I should say, has been equal to the task. Four substitutions for Brooklyn. It was Tommy McNamara that was taken off with his yellow. Conte tried, or make that, Anderson tried to find Hundal.
Marcus Anderson leads this team in goals and assists, so his ability to play make for himself, but also play make for others around is a challenge to deal with and something that they're going to want to present to this Hartford side, but giveaway here.
The midfield has gotten leaky for Brooklyn. Okiyoshi able to pick the pocket, and that's a good ball to the outside. McLaughlin into the middle, it fell to Anderson, and it went off of a Hartford Athletic defender again. That has been the story of the night. Britton Fisher was there this time. Anderson fed back and right on to Siaha again. Mangione cannot believe it. Brooklyn FC, several opportunities. It was laid off to Mangione, and I think that also was deflected onto Siaha.
Yeah, you just see Makangila and Cariaga hitting the deck, throwing their body in front of that ball.
Now Anderson chunked it. It was a great ball from Hundal. Anderson had a clear shooting lane, and he simply dribbled it onto Siaha. Anderson again. Well, Brooklyn has found itself in possession, but a turnover in the midfield. And Galena, who's been effective since coming on as a first-half substitute, will win a throw-in.
And this is where you feel the real effects of goals changing games, because character-wise and quality-wise, to playing to your identity for Brooklyn on the ball, you just find yourself playing a bit more rushed because you're chasing this game. You're seeing time come off the clock, so you're finding yourself in that indecision where you want to play forward, you want to play with urgency, and sometimes you just casually misplay a ball or poor technique, and now Hartford is finding themselves in some of these transition moments higher up the field instead of having to go from deep to all the way to the attacking third. They're winning the possession at midfield, and that's just where Brooklyn's getting caught between two ideas.
Speaking of trying to make something happen, and it goes right out of play. A Hartford Athletic, them being able to score has been a bit few and far between. In fact, between April 1st and last Saturday, the 2-1 victory over Detroit City, Hartford Athletic didn't score a single goal. March 28th, 2-2 draw to Indy 11. And then in the following 5 matches, Hartford did not score a goal. So that in total, 511 minutes. But you can extrapolate it even more, because in the 88th minute of that 2-2 draw with Indy 11, it was drawn level for Hartford by an own goal. And then in the 2-1 victory over to Detroit City, the first goal for Hartford was an own goal, before finally Dispay scored in the 89th minute, the winner. So if you add that to the time, between goals scored by actual Hartford players going all the way back to April 1st, it was 596 minutes. But now in consecutive matches, all competitions, Dispay with a goal that actually went off of him. And then, of course, you add Samuel Cariaga, who broke the deadlock in this second half.
Well, I'll speak for everybody in a great appreciation for the work that you just did to put that all together.
I've never seen anything like that before.
And that's where I would add just the absolute ownership of who you are, how you identify your role and your responsibilities within this squad. And we've seen it in a number of phases for Hartford tonight.
Not only gets as far as the top border of the box. Hartford trying to see this through and find themselves in a significantly more advantageous position than it looked like they were going to be in, even at about the hour mark tonight.
As This is where you just love metrics. I mean, you look at the XG, 0.77 for Brooklyn, 0.12 for Hartford. Hartford 2 shots, only 1 on target, and obviously that being the goal. So it's about your influence in both boxes, and that's where they are winning the battle right now, and Brooklyn's going to want to have something to say about that, starting with this attacking corner.
And it's going to be Cervania, the Puerto Rico international. There's a bunch of jostling and pushing and shoving and clawing in the box. That'll be sorted through by Luis Arroyo. Getting late here on Coney Island. Cervania ready to serve the corner. And ready to catch it, fully extended, Siaha. And now the distribution, and Hartford Athletic wants to track meet it. Heavy touch, though. And back to work goes Van Kaya-Ziel and Brooklyn FC. Okiyoshi chops it to Cervania. Now McLaughlin, he's in a battle. From his backside, maintains possession. Now it's whipped in to the top of the box. And Hartford will win it back. Well, we went through that prolific scoring drought. Just arid in the attack from Hartford Athletic. Yet despite all of that, and again, I'll reiterate, 596 consecutive minutes, all competitions without a ball finding the back of the net that went off of a Hartford head or foot. Yet Hartford in league play came into tonight 4th in the East. Despite all of that, with only a +1 goal differential, and that is a testament to Brendan Burke's defense and how there has been total buy-in. The attack certainly hasn't found itself after losing Kyle Edwards in the offseason and Mamadou Dieng in the offseason, the 2 leading goal scorers from a year ago. But the defense has been the saving grace, and it does not appear as if there's any let-up on the horizon. That, at least in the early going of this season, that's the meal ticket. By the way, Sebastian Anderson for Hartford Athletic moments ago was put in the book of Luis Arroyo. He earns a card.
And you knew there was going to be a lot of value from Hartford Athletic being the defending champions. They were going to want to put their best foot forward. Didn't get the result that they necessarily wanted in that match against Rhode Island FC, but got a clean sheet, dropped the additional point in penalties, but you knew the defensive side was going to be there, but to the numbers that you threw out and you put together, I mean, you just wondered where that output was going to come from.
Brooklyn, not only are they going to have to start taking up real estate in the attacking half like they did for really the most part of the first 60 minutes of this match, but they're going to have to try and find a way to make Siaha work. I mean, this back line of Fisher and Scarlett, and coming on in the first half, Babu Karenji. I mean, this has been desperate. It has been incredibly impressive. It has been sacrificial. Flag is up, offside.
And that's what gets forgotten a lot on the defensive side. A lot of people look at the first action. When a team is on the ball, that first action that breaks the line or eliminates defenders, or you're on the dribble, you beat your first defender. But defensively, it's so much more about that second and third action is where you're winning. And your ability to either get yourself back in the play, down press, be able to make some of those slide tackles that we've seen from Hartford, those key blocks, influence the shooting channel in the lane, narrow it, make that more predictable for Siaha. I mean, those are moments that you don't necessarily look at as loud, but they do come into play a major factor in how games are decided.
Mangione's not going to love looking at film of that tomorrow. In match review, Callum Frogson has entered in place of Ryan McLaughlin for Brooklyn FC. Frogson played at North Carolina and Florida Atlantic. Second team AAC his senior season. Head coach Joey Worthen.
And a player we've seen have a lot of bright spots throughout this early portion of the season. And for him, it's still the development of his influence on the attacking side. You know what you're going to get from him in those 1v1 duels, his job and his role defensively. But now it's about how does he go and recognize his influence and where he can get himself into some of those dangerous situations in the attacking third.
Conventional wisdom tells you that Samuel Carriaga is man of the match. But, dare I say, Britton Fisher or Jordan Scarlett or even Beverly Macangila, all players that have given up their bodies in defense tonight for Hartford Athletic, could certainly be in the discussion. They didn't get the goal scoring glory, but man, have they been as important, if not more so. And Galena, oh, what a goal! A blast from close range, a difficult angle, and Galena with a cannon shot off his right foot. Jackson Lee stands in disbelief. He didn't stand a chance. And Hartford Athletics gonna take all 3 points.
Just a stunning strike. That vertical ball, his ability to turn the corner. Gets it on the bounce on the way down. Locates the goal and just hits this with every part of his laces. You said it. No chance that Jackson Lee makes that save. I know it's quote unquote that near post and goalkeepers should have that taken care of, but that was hit with so much venom. And with the ball and the way it was bouncing, you just wondered what he was going to do with it. Was he going to let it drop and take an extra dribble? Was he going to try to wait and get one of his teammates involved? He had stretched the field so much that he was well past any teammate getting himself back in the box. So he knew right away that it was on him to connect and put something on frame, and my goodness, did he.
No finesse needed, all power for Michi and Galena. He was one of 2 first-half substitutions, 2 apparent muscle injuries for Hartford Athletic within a 5-minute span of one another. And Engalina has been extremely active, and he finds the goal, and he shuts the door here tonight in New York City. He chested it to himself off that direct long ball. Looked more like a shoulder than a chest. Either way, he was able to half volley it onto his right foot. And Jackson Lee didn't have time to react before it was by him. Now, goals scored makes a difference in the USL Cup standings. So obviously, this is a big deal for Hartford Athletic to get their first 2 of this tournament. But Brooklyn, who has 3, they certainly, even if they can't take all 3 points, would absolutely serve themselves well to pick up a 4th in the USL Cup. There are layers to this, and subsequent portions of this competition that do need to be weighed and considered. Yes, the disappointment, but you can't just pack this in now, because who knows whether it's fighting for first place in this group or fighting for the wild card. Your goals for make a significant difference.
And we thoroughly enjoy those layers that you were just talking about, because it just puts so much intent behind how you approach a match and how you approach it through the phases that come to play out and what presents itself. And Hartford Athletic, and you look back to last year, 2025, they were a team that were able to balance the results in the USL Cup with play in the regular season. They were able to build that foundation and success within this tournament, within group play, and carry that into regular season matches. And you saw that come to fruition in where they finished in the regular season standings. And then with them winning last year and being the defending champions, so they were able to put it all together and really blend the two competitions.
Cervania looks on. Brooklyn had their chances tonight. To the near post, and this will be another corner. So Hartford Athletic, and a foul before the corner is even delivered, and that about sums up the last half an hour or so for Brooklyn FC. Carriaga with the breakthrough in the 63rd. Hartford Athletic added a second with Michi and Galena. Anthony Siaha is shown a yellow.
And if this game finishes 2-0, this would just add to the theme that we discussed with Marlon LeBlanc of those fine margins. I mean, he had emphasized with his group those small moments that decide matches, and believes this group is closer than the results suggest. Those fine margins turn points in this league from nothing, and that's going to be where they're going to look at the first 45 and say, hey, where was a couple moments where we could have fine-tuned those lead-up actions or that final moment and turned it into a goal. And now the narrative and the momentum is completely different, because you did feel a shift towards the end of that first half. Hartford building a little bit of confidence. Now, it has not translated to possession flipping into Hartford's favor, or shots on target, or shots overall. But you did feel like they were finding some quality moments, and they found the breakthrough early in the second half, and they've carried that to now add a second goal.
Next up for Brooklyn, it's back to the USL Championship schedule. And it's going to be a trip to Rhode Island. That is next Saturday. And then you head to Florida against Sporting Jacks. And then June 7th, it's back to the Prinx Cup, USL Cup, as Brooklyn will welcome Portland Hearts of Pine to this venue. And that'll be a match where Brooklyn's going to be looking up at Portland in the Group 5 table. Far departure from how this night started, but Portland Hearts of Pine picks up the 2-1 victory over Rhode Island earlier today. And Brooklyn's going to come up empty here tonight. For Hartford Athletic, they're on the road at FC Tulsa this coming Friday. And then it's back home against New Mexico United, and then USL Cup play at New York Cosmos on June 6th. So still a long way to go. Hartford was going to be up against it if they could not pull out a result tonight. Instead, it's back to game on for the defending champions. And they feel a lot more cozy about where they sit.
That matchup with the New York Cosmos for Hartford Athletic on the road. New York Cosmos dropping that opening match to Brooklyn 3-0, but massive comeback last night against Westchester.
Yeah, sure was.
Took a 1-0 advantage into the break. Westchester equalized 1-1 early in the second. The 94th minute, Kofi finds that third goal, the breakthrough that Cosmos were looking for. So they picked up 3 points in this group.
Well, Brendan Burke this week, Hartford Athletic manager, called Brooklyn probably the best team under the playoff line. That's verbatim in the entire USL Championship. And for an hour tonight, Brooklyn was proving Brendan Burke right, but Hartford Athletic, a rash of injuries in the first half. Forget the season as a whole. They find a way to overcome behind vacuum-tight defense. Just phenomenal effort on that end, and they are rewarded with goals from Kiriaga and Engelina. And Hartford Athletic is going to find themselves even with Portland Heart of Pines atop group number 5 in the Prinx Cup USL Cup.
And this is also where you just have great appreciation for what this game offers. You can present such contrasting identities.
Olney never found Mangione. Okiyoshi can't get there. And now the race is on and the match is over. Luis Arroyo blows his whistle. Hartford Athletic, they had to grind away at it. Hartford Athletic had to muck up the proceedings, and they find a way with stellar defense and then opportunistic offense in the second half. Hartford Athletic 2, Brooklyn FC 0. Post game on the way. Prinx Tires USL Cup on ESPN+. Hartford Athletic 2, Brooklyn FC 0. Prinx Tires USL Cup, all 3 points to the visitors. And they are even with Portland Heart of Pines, top of Group 5 in the USL Cup. With Eric Dobransky, I'm Ken Levicka, as we bring you back to Maimonides Park. And let's take a look at how we got here. And this was a match that was controlled by Brooklyn FC, and suddenly a breakthrough for Hartford.
The volume belongs to Brooklyn FC. They did a lot of the work on possession, the work in chance creation, but the execution and the clinicalness in front of goal belongs to Hartford. And that's where you see the result at where it stands 2-0. Get the finish from Kiriaga, and then this ball over the top. Engelina knows that he's separated himself from his teammates, so now it is on him to take that initial touch towards Jackson Lee, towards goal, lets this ball drop kindly to that right foot and just smashes it past Jackson Lee into the back of the net and puts some distance between that 1-0 advantage to 2-0 advantage. And for a Hartford side that is so stout defensively. You felt like it was not comfortable, but you felt like that second goal just ensured the 3 points and made it a situation for Hartford to see this game out.
That shots category going to drive Brooklyn FC nuts. 14-3, they outshoot Hartford Athletic. I want to thank our executive producer, Miguel Maggiato, our director, Giovanni Guerrero, replay operator, Fabio Piso, and our audio engineer, Omar Montana. For Eric Dobransky, I'm Ken Levicka. Hartford Athletic wins it over Brooklyn FC. This has been the Prinx Tires USL Cup on ESPN+. Good night, everybody.
This copyrighted telecast of the United Soccer League cannot be retransmitted, rebroadcast, or reproduced without the express written consent of the United Soccer League.